exactly right. I want to make another point too. I think this is important and nobody's talking about it. Barack Obama, and you know my feelings about Barack Obama. Yeah.
Yes. Strong feelings.
I have to say that the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran nuclear deal is what it was known as. The JCPOA was a good idea.
Give it to people who are familiar with it. Break it down in simple terms. And Israelis hated him for that.
They hated him for negotiating this deal with the Iranians, but it was a good deal and it worked. So the idea was that the Iranians said, we don't have a nuclear program. The United States said, we're not sure if we can believe you. We think you might have a nuclear program or you might not, but we want to inspect it. So that's where the two sides entered into the negotiations. The final deal, to make a long story short, was that the Iranians agreed to essentially the same deal that the United Nations had in Iraq during Saddam Hussein, where you would get spot inspections by UN weapons inspectors, no announcement. They just show up and you've got to let them in.
Like a random drug test.
Like a random drug test. This is a random nuclear inspection.
Yep.
The areas that could be used to enrich uranium were closed and sealed with lead seals that the United Nations controlled. And then security cameras were installed like 360 so that at the UN or the IAEA or Langley or Jerusalem or wherever, they could watch the cameras 24 hours a day and make sure nobody's messing with the seals. Okay? So it was working. And Donald Trump, in the first couple of weeks of his first term, just tore it up and threw it away and said it made us weak. He's going to negotiate a better deal. And the Iranians are like, we just now negotiated this like a year ago with Obama.
He did that, and then he moved the embassy to Jerusalem.
Yeah, that was, oh my God. I blame Bill Clinton for that.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Why has he got to catch a stray for that?
Because Congress passed this stupid bill mandating a move of the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, provided that the president signed a document saying that the Israelis were abiding by, our demands for peace talks with the Palestinians. So long as there were viable peace talks, then we would move the embassy to Jerusalem. Well, there were no viable peace talks. And so every year, presidents would say, no, we can't move the embassy. No, the Israelis aren't negotiating with the Palestinians. No, we're not moving the embassy. Clinton should have vetoed that stupid bill when he had the chance. But he kowtowed to the Israelis and to AIPAC and its supporters in Congress. It's like, okay, I'll sign the bill, but there has to be an amendment in the bill that will allow me to delay the move of the embassy because the Israelis aren't serious about negotiating peace. And then Trump's like, screw it, move the embassy.
Yeah.
And Sheldon Adelson paid for it out of his pocket. He did. There's a big brass plaque at the embassy now saying, thank you, Sheldon Adelson, for paying out of your pocket to move the embassy. Like, is there anything that the Israelis wanted that we haven't given them?
It's so crazy.
What do we get out of this?
If they're so effective at controlling the United States government, how are they so horrible at controlling the PR?
Yeah.
And if they are so powerful, and you have these people like Larry Ellison and Peter Thiel and all these other tech billionaires who won't say one single negative thing about them. I mean, Elon hasn't said one thing about the Epstein files.
No, because then you're branded as a self-hating Jew. And nobody wants to be called that.
So how are they letting, it seems like if you go on the internet, no one is on Israel's side. There's a few people like the Mark Levins and whoever.
And Ben Shapiro.
That's
pretty much it.
That's pretty much
Patrick
it.
Bet-David. Yeah.
And Patrick Bet-David.
Yeah. Who's not even Jewish.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his whole panel of people that he put, I love how he does his podcast and he has all of his co-hosts sit in these little like kindergarten desks next to him. He has this like giant,
I will say a friend of mine who knows him warned me before I went on his show that Patrick can come out swinging. And I went on the show and he was absolutely lovely to me, respectful. We had a terrific conversation And we've actually stayed in touch, not all the time, but we've stayed in touch. He was perfectly lovely to me. We just disagree with each other on Israel strongly. But I'll add another thing too, if I can interrupt you for one more second. Piers Morgan. I'm on the Piers Morgan show all the time.
I'm a fan of all of your debates on Piers Morgan.
Thank you.
Especially with the Epstein lawyer, Dershowitz.
Yeah, Alan doesn't like me anymore.
What?
I know, right? Anyway, I'm cool with that. But Pierce likes having me on. I was on again yesterday. He likes having me on because I don't interrupt people. You know, I was raised to believe that was rude to interrupt somebody. So I try not to. And when I do interrupt, I apologize for interrupting. But anyway, it's like smackdown on that show half the time. 3 or 4 appearances ago, I'm going to say this is probably like 6 or 8 months ago, Pierce said to me, I was on this panel with Scott Horton, who is absolutely friggin' brilliant.
Oh yeah, he's insane.
I could just sit and listen to him talk all day long. The guy is so smart and so grounded. He and I were on what was supposed to be the pro-Palestinian side. And then
I love how they make it so binary.
Yeah. And then the other side was some former head of Mossad and some journalist.
This was yesterday?
No, this was 6 or 8 months ago.
I saw this one.
And then some journalist, I don't remember who it was. But these guys were just killing each other, interrupting each other. Like I expected that if they were in the same room, we were all remote, but if they'd been in the same room, they would have gotten up and we would have seen fisticuffs. One of my favorite words. So at the end, Pierce says, John, you haven't said much. He said, do you believe that Hamas is a terrorist organization? And I said, well, I believe that it was created as an organization of national liberation. But in terms of October 7th, if you're attacking a civilian population for the purpose of instilling terror for a political goal, then yes, of course, Hamas is a terrorist organization. He said, do you believe October 7th was a terrorist attack? And I said, yes. Again, if you're attacking civilians at a music festival and you're just killing people and snatching them and taking them hostage, yes, of course, that's a terrorist attack. And he said, then what's your objection to the Israeli response? I said, Pierce, you can't have as your policy, kill everybody. Women, children, the sick, the elderly, bulldoze the hospitals, bulldoze the schools, the homes, the businesses. That is the very definition of a genocide. Like, has anybody here bothered to read the genocide law? That's the definition of a genocide. If your goal, and Donald Trump told us what the Israeli goal was, it was to push out all Palestinians and to develop the property. His words, it would be better than Monte Carlo. That is the very definition of ethnic cleansing. You can't do that. And then Pierce said, I think this is the first time on the show that we've all agreed on something. And then later he told me that it was that response that made him change his mind on Israel.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I was like, I get it. I get the Israeli frustration. I really do. People were slaughtered that day. It really was Israel's 9/11. Mm-hmm. I get it. But the response can't be 1,000 times more than what the Israelis got.
Mm-hmm. As good as Israel is at controlling us and not us, but the American government and getting them to do whatever they want, specifically this administration, how are they so terrible at PR? And how do they, if they are so good, if the Mossad is such one of the most capable spy agencies in the world, how do they not foresee the next presidential election and the next, I think it's probable, and Glenn Greenwald laid this out for me, how he believes that the next presidential election in the US, one of the biggest points will be not taking Israeli money.
We're already starting to see it. We're seeing candidates for offices at lower levels announcing proactively, I'm not taking any AIPAC money. I think I've got 2 answers for you. On the one hand, I think that the Israelis, and not just the Israelis, but American supporters of Israel, lobbyists, AIPAC people, I think they genuinely cannot understand why the rest of us don't see it the way they do. Like, I know these guys, right? I know them from my time on Capitol Hill, from my time at the CIA. They really believe that if they don't do everything that they're doing now, they're going to end up either dead or scattered all around the world. right? They believe it in their hearts, number one. Number two, I think they actually have a shorter term view of the world. You know, as Americans, we have an incredibly short term view of the world.
Right.
That's why we keep losing these wars.
Right.
Right? I think the Israeli worldview is even shorter. They don't care who's elected president next. They'll deal with that when it comes. Right now, they've got a war to fight. They have an Iranian government to overthrow. And as soon as they overthrow it, then they'll deal with the next election. But that's very short-sighted.
That's shocking.
Mm-hmm. You know, you and I talked about something last time I was here that I think is important. We talked about AIPAC and the incredible political acumen that AIPAC exhibits. They have this down to a science. If you stray even one iota from the pro-Israel political line, they will primary you, right? They'll run somebody against you. If you're 99% pro-Israel, they're going to run somebody against you that's 100% pro-Israel. Right. Well, you know, that strategy is not working out very well. And I'll give you an example.
Massey?
Massey's one. There was a congressional race in New Jersey recently where an incumbent, there's been some redistricting, an incumbent congressman who's pro-Israel was running in this race. There were a bunch of other Democrats running against him. And there was one woman, her name escapes me now, who is not pro-Israel. AIPAC supported a third Democrat who was like a little more pro-Israel than the incumbent. And instead the pro-Palestinian one won because the pro-Israel vote was split.
Oh, wow.
And there's a possibility of that happening in a district in Pittsburgh. There's a possibility of that happening in a district in St. Louis. And I think that maybe they got a little too big for their britches.
Do you see this new guy who's running for governor of Florida? This fishbacked guy, young kid. I think Tucker did have him on his podcast.
Yeah, Tucker had him on. I'm smiling because on my own podcast one morning, somebody wrote in the chat, John, what do you think about this guy Fishback in Florida? And I said, oh, yeah. I said, I know that guy. I said, Tucker had him on. And I think that his position on Israel is very well considered. And it's sort of emblematic of how this new generation of political candidates is rethinking the U.S.-Israel relationship. Within minutes. I see on X, John Kiriakou endorses Fishback for governor.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh, no, I didn't.
There's a video I sent you of him, Steve.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, he's polling like 3%.
Right. He's not going to win.
He's not going to win.
Who's the other guy who's going to win? This was less. When was this posted? Yesterday? Energy to crowd with Fishback's rally in Orlando, Florida is insane. Fishback just said he will suspend the enforcement of unconstitutional anti-Semitic hate speech laws.
Well, but he's right about that. Those laws are unconstitutional. I was in Miami the other day, and in the Miami, what's it called? The Miami Herald, there was an article about this woman in Miami Beach who posted on Facebook, Free Palestine.
Oh, yes, I saw this.
And then the cops, did you post this on Facebook? It's like, yeah, what is this? The Gestapo?
Yeah.
We have freedom of speech in this country.
Yeah, that was crazy. I saw that story.
It's crazy. You know,
but he also wants to, the two other things he wants to do is he wants to put a moratorium on any immigration into Florida.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And he wants to put a 50% sin tax on OnlyFans people.
Yeah, it's nuts. And he wants to execute abortion doctors.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
dude.
it's not good.
There's something, I don't know, maybe it's just the way I grew up in Florida. Like, you know, I grew up on the beach. I never fucking paid attention to who the fucking president of the U.S. even was, probably until my mom forced me to watch some Clinton speech or something when he was getting when he got impeached for the whole fucking Monica thing. I was so young, but I didn't really care. I was too worried about surfing and skateboarding. And when I see people as young as this guy, who are
31 years old.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
And people like him, people like Nick Fuentes, who are just political pundits in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And running for fucking office. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I guess I just came from a different fucking world than these people.
Yeah, the country's changing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
But, look at this line here. If you want to call Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal, be my guest. The crowd went wild in applause. This is a sea change.
Yes.
We've never seen anything like this before. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think there's going to be an impact in the first 2028, but in the 2030 presidential race. I think there's going to be an impact. And this is going to affect the Democrats just as much as the Republicans. When Benjamin Netanyahu came to Washington, not the most recent trip just before hostilities, but the one before, Cory Booker, the Democratic senator from New Jersey, was filmed literally running like O.J. Simpson through the airport in those old ads, running so that he could make the picture with Netanyahu and all the Democratic senators. He didn't want to be left out of the picture. God. Yeah.
It's fucking insane, man.
There's a guy running for U.S. Senate from Michigan. His name is Abdul Sayed. His actual name is Abdurrahman Sayed, but he just goes by Abdul because people can't remember. It's like an 11-syllable name. It actually is an 11-syllable name. He was joking about it the other night. But I went to a fundraiser at a friend's house for him the other day. And what was interesting to me was that the whole night he talked about healthcare. The whole night. Not about this stuff. It was all about healthcare. He was like, yeah, I'm Palestinian. Yeah, I support Palestinian human rights. But I'm a medical doctor. He said, I went to the University of Michigan. I went to medical school at Columbia. I became a Rhodes Scholar and I studied epidemiology. We've got a serious problem in this country with healthcare and health insurance. We're ranked like 18th in the world in quality of medical care. What's up with that? And I thought, you know what? This guy's talking sense. I like this guy.
We've all seen the headlines lately about these massive data breaches, but the real danger isn't just a leaked password. It's the fact that your entire digital footprint is being sold to the highest bidder. And that's why I use Incogni. Most people think data brokers just lead to annoying spam emails. I wish that were the case. In reality, your name, address, and socials are sitting on people search sites, acting as a goldmine for scammers and identity thieves. Incogni handles the removal of your information from the internet. What really sets them apart is their custom removals feature, which is available with their unlimited plans. While other services might just hit the big brokers, Incogni allows you to target specific niche sites that might be holding your sensitive information. You get a dashboard that shows exactly who had your data and the status of the removal. It's the most comprehensive way to shrink your digital footprint and stay off the radar of professional scammers. Start protecting yourself right now. Go to incogni.com/Danny and use the code Danny to get a massive 60% discount on their annual plan. That is the best way to ensure your data stays private year round. Again, use code DANNY at incogni.com/Danny for 60% off. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to get started. Take your data back today. Yeah, the Massey stuff is crazy too.
The Massey stuff is crazy.
Mary Madelson is like funding his opponent or something, trying to get him out, and he's getting a lot of popular support now, though.
She dumped $100 million into the Trump super PAC in this last. She has like unlimited funds. Her husband owned Caesar's Palace or whatever, one of the giant casinos in Vegas, and then most of the casinos in Macau. And the Chinese are degenerate gamblers. It's even more profitable in Macau than it is in Vegas. So she's swimming in money and just dumping millions and millions of dollars into Massey's opponent's campaign.
But how does it like? Does that not have a Streisand effect when everyone's aware of it?
It has to. It has to. Yes. I was going to say one of my best friends is a prominent constitutional attorney, deputy attorney general during the Reagan administration. His dad was a third baseman for the Brooklyn Dodgers back in the day in the 50s. And so he's a great baseball fan. So he has season tickets. We go to a bunch of games every year. And sometimes Massey comes with us. He is one of the most honorable people I've met in Washington. I disagree with a lot of what he stands for, but he's as honest as the day is long and an honorable guy. If he wasn't in this feud with President Trump, I think he would probably win, 80%. But the money, this is going to be the most expensive House race in the history of the Republic.
Really?
It might already be there. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So when does this happen? This is the midterms?
Yeah, this is November.
This is coming in November.
Yeah. And if I lived in that district, I'd be ready to strangle everybody associated with politics, because like every single commercial is politics. It's all about this race. Every single commercial, they're buying up every minute of commercial time.
But who even watches commercials?
I know, right?
Just boomers?
I guess. But they also are the ones that vote in the highest numbers.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's so crazy, man. I think Massey could probably be a good potential for the next president, maybe. I don't know how that works, but he's got so much popular support. I feel like
he really does. I think that, there's a problem there. He's a libertarian true believer, like Ron Paul was, not Rand Paul. Rand Paul's a fake libertarian. He is. But Ron Paul was a true believer. He energized his people, and they're going to win it. And then he gets 10% in the Iowa caucus, and then nobody hears about him again. And I fear that if Massey were to run as a Republican, the exact same thing would happen to him. His supporters would be loud and broad, and he would be out there campaigning every day in Iowa, and then he's going to get 10%. And then it's over. But if he ran as an independent, that's different. I remember one time when I was in college, one of my professors speculating on an independent candidacy. In 1980, there was a liberal Republican congressman named John Anderson who ran as an independent for president. The final vote was 51 for Reagan, 41 for Carter, and 7 for John Anderson. So people are like, hey, maybe it's time for a third party. 1980, we're talking 46 years ago. Maybe it's time for a third party. John Anderson, he made a go of it. He got 7%. And then it just sort of went away. My professor was speculating, a third party that might work is somebody from the hard right and the hard left. And he said, what would happen if Jesse Helms were to run for president with Jesse Jackson as his vice president? And we all laughed. And he said, no, think about it. Think about it, because in other countries, these marriages of convenience happen in politics. You'll have the fascists and the communists running together as a ticket. He said it could happen here. Well, I wonder, if Tucker were to run. A lot of people consider Tucker to be conservative. He is on some issues. He's not conservative on others. I would call him a libertarian. But what happens if Tucker runs with a progressive? What happens if Massey runs as a conservative libertarian and runs with a liberal libertarian or a leftist libertarian? I don't think we really know what would happen because it's just never been done before.
Right.
Something that I think a lot of people would be interested in seeing.
Yeah, totally. And, again, my biggest concern is you see how promising these people can be prior to a presidential election or running for any office. And then once they get in, it's the same thing that happened with Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. And unfortunately now Tulsi Gabbard, who I think right before the June of last year, Bunker Busters that we did, the Midnight Hammer or whatever, she came out and said that they're not a threat or something. She came out and went in front of Congress and said,
they're not a threat.
And now she's I defer to the president. If he thinks it is, it is.
I'm surprised she didn't resign.
It's probably not good for her that now Kent resigned first.
Yeah,
right.
I agree with that. Somebody asked me the other day, why do you think she didn't resign? And I said, honestly, I think she needs the money. She doesn't come from wealth. She was living on her paycheck when she was in Congress.
But it's on one hand, you stay in and you lose all the trust.
Yeah.
And you lose, I guess, any potential for a future. Maybe you don't lose the potential for a future job in politics.
Sure.
But no one trusts you anymore. Or B, you save your reputation, what there is left of it, even though you're still resigning after Kent. It's not as noble, but at least you're still being honest, right? You at least can save face a little bit.
Yeah. In 1980, the Secretary of State was Cyrus Vance. Vance was a prominent attorney. His son was most recently district attorney in New York City. Cy Vance was one of these old school intellectuals, a giant from the 60s and 70s. He'd been Deputy Secretary of State. He became Secretary of State. And then he just up and resigned one day out of the clear blue sky. And people are like, what the heck happened? Cy Vance resigned as Secretary of State? Why? Well, he resigned because Jimmy Carter decided to launch a rescue operation to try to rescue the American hostages that were being held by the Iranian government. And Vance said, I think this is a terrible idea. I think the risk of failure is very high, and in good conscience, I can't support it. And Carter said, I'm overruling you and we're going to go for it. And so just out of sheer conscience, he resigned 2 weeks before the operation. He didn't say why he resigned. He just resigned and then went quietly off to academia. But time was when people did that. You resign on principle. You resign because it's the right thing to do. And I think for the most part, I mean, we saw that, of course, with Joe Kent, but for the most part, we don't really see much of that anymore.
Or you, to a way more extreme degree, not just
more,
resigning, but blowing the whistle.
I went to the mat.
Like, again, I said this the other day, but the way you and Bustamante explained it to me when you guys were both here together, how like there's that 6 to 7 year limit in politics and in the agency and any other government agency where it's like you're either going to be a forever bootlicker or you're going to leave because of your morals. And
that's it. Yep.
You can provide, you have a certain skill set that's valuable in like the marketplace.
Which is funny because the culture at the agency is that there's nothing else you can do. Your skills are so specific to espionage that there's nothing else you can do. Unless you're an analyst, you can go be a journalist and make a third of what you're making at the agency. But but that idea is not true, that there's nothing else you can do. There's a lot that you can do.
Right.
They just don't want you to leave and they want you to keep your mouth shut.
Right. Pause right there. I'm gonna take a pee real quick and we'll be right back.
Yeah, this is going to be a big split within the Republican Party between the MAGA people and the neocons. The neocons are ascendant again, and Lindsey Graham's got to be.
Oh my God! Yeah, that
dancing. Yeah, this is going to be a problem for the Republicans.
Did you see the photo of him at Disney World yesterday?
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God.
And then he posted on his Twitter that he was out shooting clay or something. And he posted on his Twitter a photo of him shooting clay, like looking like a tough guy. And somebody used AI in the comments and like made it so he was shooting like a Disney wand with bubbles. It was fucking hilarious.
I almost wish I lived in South Carolina just so I could run against him.
I think I sent you something about, there it is. Lindsey Graham spent some time breaking clays in Edgefield County today. Doesn't get much better than that. Now scroll down.
Oh my God. Trying to get Mickey's attention at Disney World.
Yeah. Oh God. The fact that he is like one of the biggest like cheerleaders for this war is just disgusting. And all those videos I saw, all the videos of all the troops I saw yesterday on I think it was yesterday, the troops that are like deploying over there, and they were like, their families were around them. They were like crying. Like,
I can't tell you the phone calls I've gotten from guys who have been ordered to deploy and they just don't want to go.
Really?
I've referred a couple of them to a group called Quaker House, which is at Fort Bragg, just outside the gates of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It's a group of Quakers, but they provide assistance to conscientious objectors. Like, there are people who want to serve their country and they just do not believe that they should risk their lives for Israel.
And
why aren't the Israelis sending ground troops?
Right. They said they're going to send them to Lebanon, right?
Well, how many wars are you going to fight against the Lebanese before you finally come to the conclusion that you can't beat them? That's another example where you can't just kill everybody. There are 900,000 internally displaced Lebanese right now. 900,000 people. Like, how much more human misery are you going to inflict?
And I wonder what the families are saying of the American soldiers that have died already.
Exactly.
I mean,
was it worth it?
Hegseth is saying that they told me to finish the job.
Bull. I don't believe that for 1 second.
Yeah, I don't think I believe that either.
No.
I'm really curious to hear what they have to say.
I had Judge Napolitano on my show the other day, and I said to him, Judge, you co-hosted a show on Fox with Pete Hegseth for 10 years. What's your analysis, your assessment of his time as Secretary of Defense? And he said, Pete Hegseth is an incompetent boob and a serial killer. He says, he's a nice guy, but he's an incompetent boob and a serial killer.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like there's any public support, or like I haven't heard any coherent argument for this.
No.
Which is crazy. And like the worst part is that the people that are doing it can't even keep the story straight.
No.
Everyone is coming out with a different reason why they want to do it.
Yeah.
Like that we did it because Israel did it first, and if we didn't jump in, they were going to attack us. They were going to attack us and we would have suffered more.
What a crock.
And then they try to walk that back afterwards and say, oh no, they were about to have a nuke. Do you want to get nuked? It's like, at least with the Iraq war, they kept their story straight.
You know, and that's another thing. Before the Iraq war, George W. Bush crisscrossed the country for months to drum up public support, right? We didn't do anything for this one. We just invaded, attacked.
Right.
There was no attempt to drum up public support. There were no speeches, no events, no explanation on the Sunday morning talk shows. Right. Nothing. We're just expected to fall in line.
And so what does it mean that, and I don't fully understand. I understand high level that in order to declare war, Congress has to do it, right?
Correct.
And is this the first time we've done it without Congress?
No, we haven't done it with Congress since 1941.
Oh, okay.
We never declared war on the North Koreans or the Chinese. We never declared war on the Vietnamese or on the Afghans or the Iraqis or anybody else. Not since the day after Pearl Harbor, December 8th, 1941. Because Congress is a collection of 535 cowards. That's why. Cowards. And then they came up with half measures where the president can send troops for 30 days, the War Powers Act, but then he has to come back to Congress and ask for funding for them. Well, you've already sent the troops. What district are you running in where you're going to go back and say, I'm going to leave our boys stranded over there with no funding. Vote for me for re-election. Come on. The fix is in from the beginning. So yeah, they're all
so crazy.
Cowards.
That's so crazy. Because they're literally going against the Constitution.
Literally going against the Constitution. And this is something that Thomas Massey talks about all the time. That the Constitution is crystal clear that if we're going to go to war, there has to be a congressional declaration of war. You know, another thing too, never in American history, and I mean this quite literally, never in American history has Congress so readily ceded its authority to the executive. The Constitution is also crystal clear about three co-equal branches of government, right? The executive, the legislative, and the judicial. But it's not co-equal anymore. The leadership in Congress, both in the House and the Senate, simply does whatever the president tells them to do.
Right. They all seem to be cheerleaders for the president.
Exactly. You know, when Jimmy Carter was president, Tip O'Neill, who was a liberal Democrat from Boston, John Kennedy's old congressional district, Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House. And Tip O'Neill is one of these old school, cigar smoking, backroom Democratic deal makers. Everybody loved Tip O'Neill. But Tip O'Neill's job, as Tip O'Neill saw it, was to keep Congress relevant, right? The president can come and ask for, them to create the Department of Education, for example. The answer is not necessarily yes. The answer is we'll consider it. And if we think it's good for the country, we'll create a Department of Education. But now, for example, recently, this is just a recent kind of silly example. The president announced that the name of the Department of Defense is changing to the Department of War. Newsflash, presidents don't get to choose the names of the departments. Congress does. So your party controls both houses of Congress. Why don't they just pass a law changing the name from the Department of Defense to the Department of War? They haven't.
Yeah, he changed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America too.
Yeah, that he can actually do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that he can do.
Like the next day it was on Google Maps.
Yeah, that he can do. But in terms of a federal department, no, he can't do that.
Yeah.
But Congress is like, oh, whatever he wants, okay. We work for him. We're here to serve the president. Actually, no, you're not. You're here to serve the American people and to represent the American people on that lower level, that constituent level, which you're not doing.
One of the things that scares me the most about all this stuff is right now we seem to be in this like little Goldilocks zone with free speech online, which feels crazy. And it doesn't feel like it's going to last forever. And I'm really afraid when the next United States regime comes along, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I always think about worst case scenario. We get another sort of Biden sort of media lockdown with the next president. And they decide to take all the people who have been talking about this and exposing it and talking negatively about Israel, as you will. And now these people are suddenly getting flagged as like hardcore right-wing anti-Israel people.
Yeah.
And now they have some sort of a limiter on them. Like the pendulum always swings.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm terrified.
I have to agree with you. I posted an article on Facebook yesterday about this new law that was just passed by the Knesset yesterday, calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty in Israel. So Israel did away with its death penalty in 1956, with the exception of Adolf Eichmann. Eichmann was snatched in Argentina and rendered back to Israel. He stood trial for war crimes that he committed during the Holocaust, was convicted rightly, and executed. But otherwise, there has been no death penalty in Israel since 1956 till yesterday. But it's only for Palestinians.
Is this the video of Ben Gvir pouring champagne?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So only Palestinians will be executed. Jews won't. And we're okay with that as a government.
And this was passed in the Knesset yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Ben Gvir, outside the Knesset chamber, celebrates the passing of the death penalty law for Palestinian detainees, describing it as historic. That's Ben Gvir in the red tie?
Yep. And saying soon we will count them one by one.
Play it.
Ben
For people who
Gvir,
don't know about Ben Gvir, why don't you give a little background?
Ben
on who he is?
Gvir is a convicted felon. He has been convicted on multiple counts of anti-Arab and anti-Muslim hate crimes in Israel. The Israeli courts convicted him of hate crimes. But now he's, the National Security Minister, I believe is his title. And he's specifically in charge of security in Gaza and the West Bank.
One of the craziest things to me about this is Lawrence Wright recently wrote a book about this. He went to Israel and he was doing research for a novel that he was writing.
A novel?
Yeah, it was a fictional book.
Interesting.
Yeah, but he's
one of the leading thinkers on these issues.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Legend. I mean, some of the work that he's done and the books that he's written is just incredible. I think he won a Pulitzer, didn't he, for Going Clear, the Scientology book? Or not? Was it a Pulitzer or what?
Or the National Book Award?
What was the award Lawrence Wright won?
I think you're right.
Pulitzer. So one of the things he said to me when he was on the podcast was that it's so bizarre that these groups of people at war with each other for so long are quite literally, they share the same exact genetic.
Yeah, that's true.
They're genetically identical and have the same exact ancestors going back to like the Canaanites.
Right. That's true. How crazy is that?
It is crazy. Yeah, have
you seen this video that's been making the rounds of this evangelical Christian American woman, Asian woman? She goes to Jerusalem and she's filming herself and she's like, Israel, Israel. And these young Jewish students spit on her. They spit right in her face.
No, I have not.
And she's like, it's okay. It's holy spit. It's holy spit. It's Jewish holy spit. And then she goes to the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall, and she's trying to interview people, and a guy like hits her hard, knocks her down. She starts crying. He's calling her a whore, and she's crying. She's like, "But I love Israel. Why are you doing this? I love Israel." It's like, this must be your first time in Israel.
Why were they doing it? Because
this shit happens all the time. There she is.
So why was this happening to her?
Because this is how they treat us. It's holy spit. It's okay.
Kids, spitting on her.
Uh-huh. They spit on Orthodox and Catholic priests all the time. See, look, took a swing at her. He punched her right in the face.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
but because she's American?
Yeah, because she's not Jewish.
Because she's not Jewish. Uh-huh. How do they know she's not Jewish? Because she looks Chinese?
I guess. Look at her now. She's crying like, how could this happen?
Love Israel.
But she was also filming. So we really don't know like what the context is of this, right? Like, it seems like she's trying to, like, she knows what's going to happen. You know, like maybe she's out there doing some sort of stunt knowing. Like, is she known for,
I don't know,
like,
who
trying
she is,
to provoke people?
I don't have any idea who she is.
It's always important to understand like the context of these people
But
and what they're
Orthodox
doing.
and Catholic priests complain all the time of being spat on.
Really?
All the time.
One of the weirdest things about this whole conflict that's going on right now is the religious undertone of the whole thing. Like, did you see this report of all of these people in different branches of the military coming out and complaining about their leaders telling them that Trump was anointed by Christ?
Yeah, anointed by Christ.
He's going to ride in on like a white horse or something like this, and Jesus Christ told him to start this war.
Yeah, religion's a dangerous
What the
force.
fuck?
Seriously. It's not just scary that it's happening. It's scary that senior military officials believe this.
Yeah, but do they?
If they're passing it down
There
the
was
chain.
one of the reports was like saying that the military leader who was telling his troops this was like laughing as he was saying it.
Why say it? I would,
right.
if the Secretary of Defense orders me to say something like that, I'd say, with all due respect, sir, the answer is no. Not doing it. You can fire me. Not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that's one of the scariest things to me, especially when you see people going in front of Congress saying that like Israel has a biblical right to this territory.
Yeah.
Like based on the Bible, they have this.
Right. Exactly.
It's like the whole Israel has a right to exist thing. It's like special privileges based on scripture, on some ancient fucking scripture.
And the question is never asked, does Palestine have the right to exist?
Right. Does America have the right to exist?
Right. Do we have the right to exist? Exactly.
Who gives us the right? Like, where do we get the right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Tucker's interview with Mike Huckabee was so egregious. First of all, Huckabee should have been fired for welcoming that fucking traitor, Jonathan Pollard, into the embassy and feting him like a hero. This is a fucking guy who spied on the United States, not even just for Israel. That's bad enough. But the Israelis traded the top secret documents that he stole from the Pentagon, traded them to the Soviet KGB in exchange for a plane load of Jewish refugees. So he was essentially spying for the KGB. Did every day of a 30-year sentence. Sheldon Adelson sent a private jet to fly him to Israel. He got off the plane, kissed the ground, was met there, plainside, by Benjamin Netanyahu. And then he told an Israeli journalist that American Jews should take up arms against the American government. The American government.
He said that?
Yeah. Now he's running for Knesset. Yeah. And he was welcomed into the embassy by Mike fucking Huckabee, who then just a couple of weeks later gave this interview to Tucker and said, they can take take the whole Middle East down.
And Trump pardoned his handler?
Yeah.
Is that right?
He pardoned the handler. Yes. The Israeli Mossad handler.
Israeli Mossad handler.
Who hadn't even been charged with a crime. Just proactively pardoned him.
Oh, so this handler was never imprisoned?
No.
Never.
No, never.
Oh my God.
Never. Yeah, there you go.
What is this? Oh, this is a different story.
That's different.
Pardon industry offers rich offenders a path.
Yeah, that was in the Times.
One inmate paid a lobbyist and lawyers with ties to the president's team and walked free. Others followed the blueprint. Oh, is this the guy that opened the nursing home or had like the...
Yeah, this is the nursing home guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this guy had a nursing home that was like...
They called him the fraud king.
Abusing seniors.
Medicare.
People were dying and getting...
People were dying.
They were suing him because their fucking family members were dying because he wasn't taking care of them. And Trump just pardoned him.
Yep.
Crazy. How much of all of the shit that is happening right now has to do with Epstein in your take?
I
find it hard to believe we launch a war just to distract from Epstein.
I don't think so.
But
it would.
If I'm on the fence, the Epstein thing, and if I have a lot of Epstein blackmail on me and I'm on the fence whether I'm going to do it or not, that could be the thing that pushes you over.
To me, it would have been far easier and would have involved far fewer people just, in the dead of night to destroy the documents that you don't want to get out. Right? I mean, God knows the CIA has done that a million times over the years.
Yeah.
But I'm the least conspiratorial person I know. I can see why people believe that this could be the case. But I think that there were easier ways to protect your friends, which is what he said. Releasing the last tranche of 3 to 3.5 million documents would embarrass his friends. But isn't it easier just to not release the documents that would embarrass your friends?
Right.
That's what we've done with JFK all these years.
Right.
Just don't release them. Congress passes a law. We're going to ignore that law. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to arrest me? Nothing ever happens.
Yeah. With the JFK thing, didn't Trump say he was going to release the JFK files and then the CIA just never did it?
Trump said he was going to release them and didn't. And then Congress.
But was it his fault that they never got released, or was it?
It's my understanding that there are still 10 to 15,000 pages that haven't been released.
Okay.
And the reason they haven't been released is that they point to one very specific foreign country.
No.
That we don't want to offend.
For real?
That's what my agency friends tell me.
Talking about Cuba.
No, I'm not. Funny, if you go back in the original JFK documents, like within 20 minutes of JFK being killed, the KGB sends us a message saying, "We swear to God it wasn't us." And then like a minute later, the Cubans sent a message saying, "We swear to God it wasn't us."
I had a guy in here. Who was it? There was a guy in here who was literally sitting in a meeting with Castro when the news came out. And he said he was sitting. Oh God, I wish I could remember who this was. We had somebody on the pod he said he was a journalist. He was sitting in the fucking room with Castro as soon as that news dropped. And someone handed Castro the memo or whatever. And Castro said, "They're going to blame me for this."
When I was in Pakistan, I was the chief of counterterrorism operations in Pakistan after 9/11, just as background. And I had a group of 7 guys working for me. They were all contractors, and they had all been senior intelligence service, senior officials at the CIA. All of them had been either the chief or deputy chief of Near Eastern operations at the time, at least. One of them had been the ADDO, the Associate Deputy Director for Operations. So these are serious, high-level, high-powered guys. But because they were retired and they came back as contractors, they couldn't lead the branch. So I led the branch, and they worked for me, which just sounds odd. I learned so much from these guys. I learned more in that tour in Pakistan than I did over the rest of my entire career. But anyway, that's not the issue. The issue is we were talking about an operation one day, and one of the guys said, "You should ask Gately about that." And I said, "Gately? Who's Gately?" And he's like, "What? Gene." And I said, "Old man Gene? Is Gene Gately?" And he goes, "Yeah. You didn't know Gene's last name?" I said, "No." Gene was the oldest of the guys. He was about 80. And I said, "Gene Gately, the commander of the Bay of Pigs operation, is working for me." And he's like, "You should ask him at dinner." We all lived in the same guest house, so we all had dinner together. So that night I go, "Gene, I had no idea you were Gene Gately, the Gene Gately." And he goes, "Yeah, who'd you think I was?" I was like, I don't know. He's just an old man named Gene. And I said, "Gene, the Bay of Pigs? What's up with that?" And he said something that has been seared into my mind ever since. He says, "Fucking Kennedy. We could have won that thing."
Yeah. Well, because he didn't send air support. Me and Steven went to a museum in South Florida in Miami. One of the only interviews we've ever done where we traveled.
Wow.
To Felix Rodriguez.
You did not. You interviewed Felix Rodriguez?
Yeah.
What was that like?
So the craziest part of, honestly, one of the things that freaked me out the most was the day before we went down there, I had Danny Sheehan on the podcast talking about the whole Kennedy assassination plot and about all the Bay of Pigs Cubans, the anti-Castro Cubans who were involved in that.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm going to Miami tomorrow to interview a guy named Felix Rodriguez. What do you know about Felix Rodriguez?
Oh my
and he
God.
goes, "I deposed Felix Rodriguez."
Oh my God.
He goes, "He was on the fucking team that killed the president." This is what I didn't know shit. I mean, this is what Danny Shea is telling me, legendary Harvard lawyer who defended, all these people, was part of the Watergate thing. And
he's a giant.
Oh yeah. So we go down there, we get to the museum, and it's like this old museum of all about the Cuban history and the Bay of Pigs. And we walk into one office while we're waiting for Felix, and one of his buddies, his war buddies, was there, and he was showing me his book, and it was a picture of Kennedy's face with a fucking bullseye on it. And he had like pictures of Kennedy on the wall with like fucking bullseyes on his head and shit, like fucking slashes through his face and stuff. They all hated Kennedy.
Yeah, they did. They hated Kennedy. Every one of them. I'm sorry to say, there's a Greek American, George Giannidis, who was he was the chief of Miami Station at the time, and there are a lot of fingers that point right at George too, as having been involved.
One of the crazy things that I took away from Felix was that, like, when he got into the first thing he did was Vietnam. I think he was in the Vietnam War.
Yeah. Didn't he also kill Che Guevara?
Yeah. Yeah, he told that story. That was crazy.
And kept his finger as a souvenir.
He had denied that. I asked him. I asked him, like, I heard you kept his Rolex. He's like, no, I never kept his Rolex.
I heard that too.
And he was in the Vietnam War, like, mowing down civilians and shit. And mowing down people from helicopters, like the same shit that Billy Waugh was doing. Like, him and Billy Waugh, like, when you're that young and you're just fucking slaughtering people,
mass murder.
what does that do to your psyche? You know, and going to do that fucking assassination on Che Guevara, like, like, I don't know what like, there's two types of people. There's people like Billy Waugh and Felix Rodriguez who, like, either they have this predisposition to be able to kill without thinking twice about it and not have a conscience about it. And there's, like, the other group of people, which were like, they went to go do the Iraq War and they didn't have that in them. It's just like they had a couple options. I could go to college or go get a job, or I could go, fight this war. This seems like a cool option. And then they go out there and then they end up being traumatized because they weren't built for that.
That's right.
And they come back with, like, insane PTSD and trauma and things like that. And I forgot where I was going with this. We're talking about the Bay of Pigs and Felix Rodriguez and all that stuff.
In the museum.
And the museum.
I went to on the flip side of that.
Yeah.
I went to Havana 2 years ago, and I went to the CIA museum in Havana, which has all the shit that they confiscated from the likes of Felix Rodriguez.
No way.
At the Bay of Pigs. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's nice too. It's in the best part of Havana. It's across the street from the Tunisian embassy, and it's in a mansion, and they've converted it into a museum.
Wow.
Has their CIA IDs, their weapons, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, I feel like Felix and Billy Waugh were kind of like very similar people, and I feel like the war, like just their experiences really did that to them, and like, I've heard the stories that Annie Jacobson tells about Billy Waugh, like in his late 70s, going to the CIA, trying to see them to send him back overseas.
They did.
I know. I heard.
I went with him. That's how I met Billy. He and I did an operation together in the Middle East. We were there for months. He would tell these stories too. I mean, the guy's a legendary figure. He would tell these stories. He had a personalized license plate on his car. He lived in Niceville, Florida, and he had this license plate on his car that said 17 hits, and then it had a Purple Heart next to it. It was a Purple Heart vanity plate. And I said to him, Billy, there's no way you have 17 Purple Hearts. And he said, oh, yes, I do. I said, that has to be some kind of record in American history. His mouth was filthy. He says, no, there's some sorry ass son of a bitch in North Carolina has 18. Yeah, and then
crazy, man.
I ran into him. We came back from the Middle East on September the 9th, 2001. And just on my second day back, 9/11 happened. And so, people are busy. You're doing stuff. You lose touch. And then I see him in the hall at the end of October. And I go, Billy, I said, where you been? And he goes like this. He looks around. He goes, been in Afghanistan. I said, what are you doing in Afghanistan? And he goes, I've been killing people. What do you think I've been doing? And I was like, oh my God, that's why they haven't sent me. I kept volunteering over and over and over again. I'm like, there are 16 people in the CIA that are fluent in Arabic. There are 2 of us in the Counterterrorism Center that are fluent in Arabic. And you won't send me? Why won't you send me? It's because they didn't need a translator. They weren't translating anything. They were just killing everybody.
Wow.
Billy, he used to tell these stories. He was in Korea, he was in Vietnam, he was in Grenada, he did all this stuff, right?
One of the first stories in Annie Jacobson's book about Billy Waugh, Surprise, Kill, Vanish, which I can't fucking forget, was how, I think it was, I don't want to fucking get this wrong. I'll just say it was one of her sources. It may have been Billy. I don't remember if it was Billy or not. explained to her how his first kill was using his fucking serrated dagger to cut the throat of a woman in Vietnam.
You know, he told me that same story.
Oh, that was Billy?
Yeah.
Okay.
He told me another story, and I cracked on him. We were driving. We were in the car at one point for hours. God, he used to play this. Who is this piano player in the late 60s, early 70s? It was like Liberace kind of music. It would drive me crazy. Anyway, so hours. So just to get him to shut the piano off, I would turn it down. Hey, Billy, let me ask you about Vietnam, right? And then once he starts talking, there's no stopping him. One of the princes came up to me and he says, "You're friendly with Billy." And I said, "Yeah, I'm friendly with Billy." He says, please tell him no more F word. And please, never GD. And I was like, I'm sorry. He's got a filthy mouth. Nothing's going to stop him now. He's almost 80 years old. Anyway, he used to tell these stories over and over and over, and they would always get a little bit more exciting with each telling. And then finally, he was telling me about his Silver Star. He got shot down behind enemy lines in Vietnam, and the pilot was killed.
Right.
So he just starts the trek south. He's trying to get to the front line so he can slip across at night.
And I remember the story. His leg was like rattled with bullets.
Yes.
Shredded.
And he's walking. He walked like 25 miles. But then, like the third or fourth time he told me the story, he comes up upon this cow or ox or whatever it was in a rice paddy, and he had a knife and he cut the cow's leg so he could cut an artery, and he's drinking the blood to get nourishment. And I was like, that was a scene from Apocalypse Now. You didn't do that. And he starts laughing. He goes, well, I did all kinds of shit that was like that. Billy.
Oh my God.
Never had kids.
Yeah, never had kids. Yeah.
Yeah, the government was his life. The military was his life.
After that first, I read in that first deployment, Andy's book, he said after that first deployment, when he got his leg shot up and he came out, that's what gave him his first Purple Heart, and he had to have surgery on it. And he was like, they said, "You're disabled now. Congratulations, you're disabled."
Screw that.
Like, you're good. Yeah, he freaking like hitchhiked across the country again and tried to lie to them and tell them, "I'm good. I can sprint. I'm full speed. Send me back out there."
Yeah, he meant it.
Yeah, he wanted it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I asked him one time if he was going to write a book, and he said, "No," he said, I'm not much for writing, but he said, my niece is going to write my biography. And she did. It came out, I guess, just before he died. It's out there on Amazon. I've seen it. I've not bought it.
Interesting.
Annie Jacobson is an absolutely fantastic writer.
The Surprise Kill Vanish book was amazing.
Yeah, she's really great.
Mm-hmm. She's working on a new one right now. Supposedly about, I don't know if I can talk about it, but it's going to be similar to her latest one about nuclear war, I heard.
Great.
So how much of this shit in these Epstein files have changed your view on 9/11, if at all?
On 9/11, no. My view is generally mainstream. I believe that the Israelis had advance notice and that they made a strategic policy decision to not tell us, because they knew what the response would be. They knew we would just go out and just start killing everybody, which we did. We killed 2 million Muslims in the next 20 years after 9/11. And that was good for Israel because it led to the invasion of Iraq and the overthrow of Saddam Hussein. And remember, Saddam Hussein was an existential threat to Israel. You know, they would come and beg us, please attack Iraq, attack Iraq, attack Iraq.
Even with these emails, like about the Shadow Commission and all the missing emails. That bothered
me very, very much.
And like the missing tranche of emails right around 9/11.
Yeah, it's missing. Yes, all of that bothered me very much. I mentioned the Shadow Commission on a podcast, I don't know, a few weeks ago, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, whatever it was. And somebody wrote to me afterwards and said, the Shadow Commission is bullshit. It was private. Nothing ever came of it. It never turned into anything. Well, how the fuck do you know? Who are you anyway? Reaching out to me. It's some name I don't know. I don't know how the guy got my email address. But
the emails from Ed Epstein. Glenn was talking about him.
Yeah, Ed Epstein.
You know about him?
He's not related to Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
He was like at Harvard or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And he's not talking.
No.
No. Another thing that bothers me very much is the depth with which the Rothschilds had a relationship with Epstein.
Yeah.
Like, do they do no due diligence? I actually get it that Les Wexner, I personally believe that Les Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein had some sort of sexual thing.
Yeah.
That's just my belief. I don't have any proof. But I get that maybe Les Wexner had a crush on him and sort of, seeded his career and gave him $100 million and got him started and whatever. But the Rothschilds are the Rothschilds. They've been filthy rich since the 18th century.
Right.
They do no due diligence to see that this guy, his credentials are that he was a 7th grade math substitute teacher and that he never went to college.
Well, there's the email that he sent to Ellie de Rothschild, where he sent her something from Harvard. The Harvard professors were teaching the students that Hitler was taken care of in like a homeless shelter that was owned by the Epsteins and the Rothschilds. And then she comes back and she's like, oh, is that a conspiracy theory? And he's like, no, this is 100% true. The Epsteins and the Rothschilds. So it's like maybe, he came from some big noble family.
I've spoken to his brother. His brother's just like, Joe Normal guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Something seems off about his brother.
I think the brother's been traumatized.
Probably. His brother's the one that's like saying, I saw his body, right?
The brother,
he's definitely dead.
Accompanied the body to the crematorium.
So would it be fake? Would there be a possibility if the brother did see a body? Could his brother be fooled by a body double?
I asked him that. And he said, it was my brother. I identified the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give him that. But if you are his brother and your brother, if Jeffrey is still alive, wouldn't you want to just tell the public that he's really dead to protect him?
Sure you would. But also, if you're doing this in cahoots with your brother, don't you think your filthy rich billionaire brother would have at least given you a couple of dollars before he decided to vacate the scene?
Yeah. How do we know he did it?
I mean, the feds have confiscated everything. Everything's tied up.
Oh, you think there would be proof that he gave him some money or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just does seem weird, that the photographer was out there and ready to go.
Well, he's adamant that this was an assassination and that it was, the CIA in cahoots with the Bureau of Prisons and cahoots with this one and that one. It's this big conspiracy, but that he's dead.
Yeah. And it's also crazy that Wexner and Bill Clinton, in both of their recent videotape depositions, are giving up the Rothschilds when they're not even asking them about the Rothschilds.
Right. What's up with that?
That's kind of wild.
I interviewed David Boyce a couple of weeks ago. He's the legendary criminal defense attorney. He represents Hillary Clinton right now. And he said something that was very interesting. He said that he's got this huge staff at Perkins Coie, I guess is the name of the firm. He's got this enormous staff. They went through every page of those 3 million documents. And he said there was no evidence of any crime having been committed by Bill Clinton or by Donald Trump.
In the released files. Right.
So then why not release the rest of them? If there's no evidence of any crime, whatever happened in transparency? Let's just release them. Have we learned nothing from Watergate? It's always the cover-up that's worse than the crime.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah. And some of the people that have been just completely exposed for stone cold lying to the public about their ties to Jeffrey Epstein with no repercussion.
Oh, yeah. Nothing. Look at Catherine. What's her name? Remler? Catherine Remler.
God.
Oh, man. This woman.
I didn't know shit about her until this.
Neither did I.
And I heard you guys talking about the kill list.
Yeah. Yeah. Why would this woman, this random woman, the White House counsel that nobody's ever heard of, why would John Brennan give her the CIA's highest honor, which is normally reserved only for officers killed in the line of duty? Why would she seek repeatedly to connect John Brennan with Jeffrey Epstein? She apparently failed. There's no evidence that they ever met, but she tried repeatedly to get them together. And then lie about her relationship with him to Goldman Sachs, which then made her general counsel. General counsel. Can you imagine what she must have been making as the general counsel for Goldman Sachs? It had to be 8 figures.
What is the story of this kill list that she was a part of?
So this was a story broken by, I think it was the New Yorker back in 2009, 2010. It might have been Atlantic Monthly. I can't remember. But anyway, John Brennan, when he became the Deputy National Security Advisor for Counterterrorism in Obama's first term, remember, Obama named him CIA director, and the liberals went crazy. And they said, oh, no, you don't. He was one of the founders of the torture program. And so Obama made him the Deputy National Security Advisor, which doesn't require Senate confirmation.
After he got fired when he asked for a raise, and then he went around and found a new job and then ended up fucking deputy director.
Exactly.
Insane.
He became director.
Director, yeah.
So he convened this group that they called the Tuesday morning kill list meeting. It was mostly lawyers, the White House counsel, Deputy White House counsel, attorneys from the OLC, the Office of Legal Counsel at the Department of Justice, the CIA General Counsel's Office, and then CIA Counterterrorism Center operators. And they would come up with a list every week of people to kill, right? So all the lawyers would agree, yes, we're going to kill them. And Brennan had been...
Who specifically is killing people?
The CIA.
The CIA.
So Brennan was seconded by the president to sign on the president's behalf on the kill list each Tuesday morning. They fan out the teams around the world. They kill the people on the list. And then they all meet up again the next Tuesday and come up with a list of the next group of people to kill. It's fucking sick.
Is this still happening?
I don't think so. But keep in mind, none of these people had ever been accused of a crime. None of these people...
All foreign?
All foreign, we think. They won't say. In fact, at the very end of the Obama administration, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, was questioning the Attorney General at the time, Eric Holder. And he asked him, are you saying, you're talking about these kill lists, are you saying that the president has the right to kill anybody he wants? And Eric Holder said, if that person presents a clear and present danger, right? That's the terminology that they use. A clear and present danger to the United States, to American citizens, or American installations, then yes, the president can kill that person or order that person to be killed. And then Rand Paul says, does that include American citizens? Well, the answer was yes, because we had already killed Anwar al-Awlaki, the spokesman for Al-Qaeda, and his 16-year-old son and 16-year-old nephew, none of them had ever been charged with a crime. And then Rand Paul says, what about an American citizen on U.S. soil? And then Holder's like, well, we can go off the record, or we can, behind closed doors in closed session, I'll answer your question, but not in front of the media. What the fuck is that? Either we're a nation of laws or we're not. Pick one.
Another thing that's really disheartening about all of this is that it's coming out after all of these files about all of these people are coming out only after the statute of limitations is up.
I think that's the thing that makes me the angriest about this whole Epstein situation, is that no matter how terrible the revelations become, no one will ever face justice. No one.
And is the statute of limitations, do they only cover specific crimes?
Yeah, there's no statute of limitations on murder.
Okay.
I believe that there's no statute of limitations on terrorism or on the use of a weapon of mass destruction. And then somebody told me the other day that I was wrong about conspiracy, that there is no statute of limitations on conspiracy. I haven't researched it, but I think they're wrong. I think there is a statute of limitations. For most federal crimes, it's 5 years. Some it's a year, 2 years, making a false statement or whatever, failing to fill out the FARA form online.
Right. And what a coincidence that we're just over 5 years since Epstein died.
Isn't that
And now it's all
interesting?
coming out. Mm-hmm. So theoretically, now it's safe.
Which is yet another reason to release the files. Right, your friends are going to be protected. They're not going to go to prison. And if your friends are files, society needs to be protected from them. So I'd like to know who the files are. Thank you very much.
Key aspects of the conspiracy statute of limitations, general federal limit, the standard federal statute of limitations for conspiracy is 5 years.
5 years. Dang. So I was right. He was wrong.
Interesting. And, that whole Bannon interview with him was crazy too. And I think only a couple hours of it got released. I think there was like over 10 hours he filmed with him allegedly is what I heard. Wow. but we only got like that 1 or 2 hours where like some people say that, Bannon was trying to do some sort of a PR campaign to like revive his the public perception of him when he did that. But I don't know if you watch that, like Bannon was really like coming at him.
Wow. I wonder why he would do something like that. I mean, why Epstein would agree to something like that. Maybe just because they were friends.
Right.
Did you happen to see this piece in the New York Times last week about this society woman that he was giving money to, and she helped to reintegrate him into New York society?
Oh, yes.
She wore stripes the day that he was released to show solidarity with his time in prison.
The New York socialite lady?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, she was trying to help him find a baby mama. Mm-hmm. So he was allegedly...
Which is a whole other, issue that came out in these files.
Yeah. There was kids.
What is this, eugenics?
It looks like he's having kids. It looks like he has kids out there.
Yeah, they had to be perfect specimens, looking for Ukrainian girls.
That's what he was telling her. Yeah, like telling her this is the kind of girl I want. But she's like saying, "Oh, well, you gotta find a girl who's not going to get too attached, not going to try to get any of your money. Like we got to find the right girl. We can find her."
Yeah, it's not good.
It's crazy. And the whole Trilateral Commission thing, how he's telling Steve Bannon about this Trilateral Commission. Yeah, they invited me to the Trilateral Commission.
I bet they did.
All these other big people and had the, huge backgrounds, world leaders, and then this young kid from Coney Island. Just a good kid.
Someone to whom I used to be very close has attended these kinds of meetings, Trilateral Commission, Shangri-La Summit, Davos, all of these major. And she told me that they all take place just to sell weapons and weapon systems. That's all anybody ever talks about. She said, yeah, the politicians think the big thoughts and, this is what I'd like to do. And what do you think of this idea with, clean energy or whatever? But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's all about selling weapons.
The Trilateral Commission is all about selling weapons.
The Trilateral Commission of all of these different groups is the one that's most highfalutin, right? The Henry Kissingers and Hillary Clintons of the world meet with the Tony Blairs and, people from the CEOs of the world's biggest corporations and stuff. And yeah, they talk about international policy and what would be best for the United States or best for the European Union or best for international banking or whatever. But in the end, it's really all about making military sales.
Why would gun sales be of such high importance?
Oh, because that's how the American economy runs. Post 9/11, we're in a full-time, permanent wartime economy.
So at the highest level of the pyramid of society is arms trafficking?
Yeah. Listen, the Pentagon, it took them 75 years to do this, but the Pentagon has manufacturers with which it does business in literally every one of the 435 congressional districts. Literally every one of the country's 435 congressional districts has something to do with the manufacturing of weapons, weapon systems, or associated technologies.
Whoa.
So there are jobs at stake in every congressional district in America. That's why the votes for the Pentagon budget are almost unanimous every time.
And where do the world bankers fit into this whole equation? Like the Rothschilds and Soros and all these folks.
I don't know. And I think most people don't know. And that's why these conspiracies take root. And don't forget too, that almost every conspiracy has a kernel of truth at its basis. But I think we really don't know how it all works.
You see the story that just came out where one of the board members of the Rothschild Bank just got hired to oversee the Vatican Bank.
Oh my God. No, I did not see that.
Find that story,
What
Steve.
in the world?
It's like all the craziest QAnon shit is coming true.
Yeah, it's like they're sitting around a table saying, oh, you know what we should do? Let's pick the most egregious conspiracy and we'll make it happen.
Right. I mean, we'll release documents that shed a little bit of evidence to all this stuff and not give you any answers.
Yeah, no answers.
We'll just throw out all these little weird kernels out there that freak people out, set the internet on fire, and we will just shut our mouths and let chaos happen. Vatican Bank appoints Francois Pauli as president of the super Advisory Board. What the heck? The Vatican Bank has confirmed the appointment of former Rothschild director Francois Pauli as the next president of its board of superintendents.
I think it's Francois.
Francois. Francois. Tomato.
Board of superintendents.
Yeah.
Sounds high level.
It's the Illuminati.
Yeah, seriously. He's a Luxembourg national. 3 decades of experience in European finance.
Yeah, man. All this stuff is just, it's too much.
Career began in the late 1980s. Makes me feel like an underachiever.
Yeah, man. Like people like this, you know, like, and people like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. Previously, it was like, if you talk about them, you're like Alex Jones. You know, you're crazy.
Right.
And now,
Yes.
now that's not
or
the case
you're
anymore.
anti-Semitic.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, like even the stuff that like Rockefeller was a part of, like being the back channel to Saddam, like fucking what?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like something from a science fiction book or like something from like some sort of crazy conspiracy. It's insane that it's real.
And then it comes true.
Yeah. What's next, John? What's going to happen next?
I don't know, man. I'm not optimistic. I think this Iran thing is way worse than people realize. I think we're in it. Unless, you know, one of the things that Donald Trump sometimes does is he just declares victory, and then that's the end of it.
That would be the best case scenario. If
we win, we're going home. It's all over. Nothing to see. He kind of hinted at that yesterday. He said that the Iranian government has been decapitated and that we have already seen regime change. It's like, okay, it's one way of looking at it. But then the Washington Post reported this morning that multiple Gulf royal families are asking him to see it through and make sure that the whole thing collapses.
What do you think? Do you think that's really? You think that?
I do.
Really?
Yeah. They hate and fear the Iranians.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
You would think they'd be pissed at us.
I think they were for the first couple of days. But, you know, it's one thing to hit Al Udeid Air Base, for example. That's embarrassing to us. But to start sending suicide drones into hotels in Dubai, that's just going to piss them off.
Right.
You blow up the Kuwait airport runway, Bahrain airport runway, that just pisses them off. The Saudis spent at least a decade trying to normalize relations with Iran again. They finally succeeded. And the Iranians sent an ambassador to Riyadh, the Saudis sent an ambassador to Tehran. And now, by all accounts, American media accounts, when Mohammed bin Salman was at the White House last week, he begged the president to just go at him with both barrels and not to stop until they're done.
That's fucking bonkers.
Iran is a huge, populous country. And, you know, talk about existential threats. I spent almost 5 years in the Gulf. And every one of those GCC countries, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates, they are petrified of a strong and offensive Iran. They're petrified. There are 92 million people in that country.
But if the Ayatollah made some sort of a religious declaration of not to make nukes, why would they be so afraid of him? Because of just the religious grip in the Sunnis and Shia?
The IRGC and the MOIS, the Ministry of Intelligence and Security in Iran, actively seek to overthrow the Gulf governments, the Gulf royal families, actively initiating they're called active measures, you know, coup plotting. When I was living in Bahrain, twice these pallets of weapons in these big waterproof containers, like washed up on shore. What the fuck are these for? All these weapons and explosives and mines and bullets. Like, who's supposed to pick these up on the beach and miss the connection?
Wow.
Yeah, the Iranians are not naifs in this whole thing.
How much of a threat do you think Islamic extremists are to America?
I think that self-radicalized, homegrown Islamic extremists are a problem. You're going to get some kid who radicalized himself by watching YouTube videos, who's going to go into, you know, a shopping center and open fire on people, or into a church, for example.
How much
of
those are false flags too?
You know, I'm not one of the believers that false flags are common things. More common examples of false flags. I'll give you one that we studied at the agency. Before you could just, go onto Google Earth and look to see what, whatever you want to look at.
Mm-hmm.
It could take 6 to 12 months to move a satellite from one place to another. Right. That's why we didn't liberate Kuwait until February of 1991. The Iraqis had invaded August of 1990 because we had to move a satellite from over Moscow all the way over to be over Iraq and Kuwait. Mm-hmm. And it took months to move the thing. So some countries didn't have satellites at the time. So as this example of a false flag, the Israelis really, really wanted to know what was going on in the port of Benghazi in Libya. Well, they don't have a satellite to look at the port of Benghazi. So what they did is they had a Mossad officer call the harbor master on the phone in Benghazi and say, "Hi, I'm a wealthy French businessman, and we do a lot of work in Libya, a lot of trade, and I represent a consortium of European businessmen. We have lots and lots of money, and we're looking for somebody to represent our interests in Benghazi, somebody who has access to the port and understands how the port works, and we have tons of money that we're willing to spend." Well, what's the port master going to say? Harbor master. He's going to say, "I could do that." "Oh, you would do that for us? You would be our consultant. We're going to pay you a lot of money. All we want to know is the names of the ships that come in every day and everything that's on the manifests." Okay, that's protected information. Does the information include weapons for Palestinian training camps in Libya? Of course they do. What about technologies from North Korea or from Pakistan or any other country that might be willing to sell nuclear information? And so this harbor master reported to Mossad for years. He never had any idea that he had been recruited by Mossad.